Students of medieval history at Lewis Clark State College, Professor Eric Martin here, and welcome to week 4. So, as most of you should know by now, I've taught this class a couple of different times. I have never taught it online before, and I'm still sort of sorting out how that's going to work in such a way that is not overwhelming and also not too easy, right? That's always kind of a difficult thing to measure. Before we get into anything, I just want y'all to keep in mind that the most important thing to me is to be convinced you're doing the readings, you're thinking about history, you're discussing it. And so the way I get that information is from action on the discussion boards, content based. And if you can help me out with that, then you give me a lot to work with as we move through the class. All right. So let's talk about where we've been, what we're doing, and what we're doing next. And this might not be the most elegant presentation because you may see some of my secrets. So week 1 didn't get my, oh, there they are. We did get our notes, April. Thank you. Week 2. Waiting. All right, Jasper and Anthony. Week 2 notes. That's a requirement. Week 3 notes. How we're back to April again, I don't know. Seems like the first week must have been volunteer. But that's... I'm shooting this a week in advance. Okay. So anyway, my point is week 4, Barbara and Andrew. Expect to see some notes. Okay. Focused on the readings, focused on what you're getting out of the class. Just something to help me understand what we're learning. Something that would provide another student an opportunity to get an idea about how other people are approaching the class. Let's talk about week 4. Right here is where the video will be. Okay, let's talk about a couple of things before we even get to week 4. First off, next week, week 5, the initial draft of your annotated research bibliography is due. So you should be thinking about that. You should be thinking about what kind of project do you want to do for this class. Okay, so we're talking about your formal essay for this class. Look at the details of that. It's part of a big what did I learn reflection. It's part analysis of the assigned course readings and part connecting an individual research project to the course material. Later in April, we're going to give research presentations in some way, shape, or form, probably shot by video and uploaded. In order to ensure you have something to present, you're going to write 2 analytical book reviews on scholarship related to your project, but you're expected to be familiar with the wider body of work. That's what the annotated bibliography does. It helps you with the process by making sure you understand you have a topic that you can actually get a hold of sources for, right? So you should probably plan to spend about 2 hours online, in the library, wherever it is you think you're going to get access to resources, scouting your project. All right? Your research project or this annotated bibliography is going to be something like a half-page abstract describing your project. What is it that you want to get into with the connection to the medieval period? And I wish we had more time to get deeper into the year 1000. Okay, because I know I'm going to get a number of Viking projects because that's just the first chapter. People, oh, that's super interesting. There's other super interesting things in here. Use the table of contents and look through it and see what other things you might be interested in. Your project should include at least 8 scholarly books, a primary source, an online museum collection, an online archaeological site, and you should have a short annotation describing what the resource is and what you expect to find in it. All right. These annotated research bibliographies are essentially maps. These are the maps that historians create before you get into a project. Are there sources for this project? If you can't find them, you might need to rethink the project. Can I get a hold of the sources? If you can't, you might need to rethink the project. So what you want is a topic, a direction for the project, and here are these different sources I could read. Really what you want to be looking for are the big name historians writing classics in a wide variety of medieval history. If you're looking at Chinese history, if you're interested in the history, Arab history, if you're interested in Mayan history, if you're interested in various elements of European history, West Africa, whatever it is, you want to identify the scholars who really kind of specialize in that stuff and then see what the major books are. All right? Don't make it harder than it needs to be. I'll tell you guys what my secret sauce is for this kind of stuff. If it were me, I would type in to Professor Google something to the equivalent of syllabus, medieval Africa, and see if someone is teaching classes on what I'm interested in. Syllabus, medieval, China, women, and see if a syllabus comes up, and then start looking through the books they're assigning and see if any of that sounds good. Don't make it harder than it needs to be. All right? So start thinking about this, start putting it together. It's going to be due next week. Maybe you'll have time to do it next week, but it might be good if you start thinking about things now. One of the killers for students, obstacles for students is they put off trying to get a solid grip on their research project too long. And it takes some time. You got to let that stuff simmer a little bit while you think about, what you want to do, what you have access to, all that kind of stuff. So if you try to do it at the last minute, that can generate some problems. Start thinking about it now. All right. That's for next week. For this week, we're going to do something a little bit different. Kind of. It's really the same. We're reading chapter 3 and we're reading chapter 4 in the year 1000. Chapter 3 deals with European slave trade, roughly year 1000, revisitation of, let me back up. That's chapter 4. Chapter 3 really focuses on Central and South America. So take a look at the chapter. I want you to just kind of cruise a little bit through this Chichen Itza website. You are required to watch this video on the Maya. This other video is pretty good. If you're interested in it, totally optional. If your last name begins with the letters A through K, you will be guiding the class through the discussion on this chapter. Okay? I'm going to come back to that. All that discussion should be done by the end of the day on Tuesday, so we can get to stuff on Thursday, in which, if your last name begins with the letters L through Z, you will be guiding us through chapter 4, looking at the European slave trade at the time. Now, this is a bit of a revisitation of some of the Viking stuff. And I have included a 10-minute TED Talk on the Vikings, a description of what Ibn Fadlan saw by a big name Viking historian. But some of this stuff is, you'll see. Kind of long. It's not that long. And you guys have seen this stuff in History 102 already. So take a look at it. But my point is this. I thought that some of this, like this one here, it's a cool interview. If you're not into it, don't get bogged down into it. But this is one of the people that are translating things. The point is this. For the chapter 4 stuff, take a look at this primary source about Ibn Fadlan's account of the Rus, because it connects with the chapter. Take a look at this description, 10-minute description of what Jackson Crawford says that the thing's all about, because it connects. All the other stuff connects too, but I get it. Sometimes time is limited. So let's talk about how we're going to approach the discussions. And they're the same for each one. I'm only going to focus on the chapter 3. We're going to do a little different this time. So here is what I'm thinking. Chapter where we all participate, or a week where we all participate. And then a week where we break up into groups and we focus in. All right, and then we'll see what happens the next week. But here's the thing. Later in the term, you're going to need to be writing book analyses for this class. So we might as well start using that format for our discussions. Okay? So go through and look at the criteria for the book analyses, which are right here. I suggest you read that before you start reading the chapter to take your notes, because it will give you things to look for. Okay? So 75 words and 75 words, I don't know. Make an effort and make a substantial effort and convince me you read the chapter. All right? As a group. You're going to have to write a book analysis using the same format over the year 1000. You're going to be doing it over the Eleanor Yinga book. You're going to be doing it over your own books. So we might as well get used to the format. It's right here. This is exactly the same thing that this links to. However, to make it even easier for you, I divvied up the discussion. Nice and simple. Part 1. What's the author's point of writing the selection? Chapter 3. What's their point? What do they hope to prove? What are the issues they address? What's their perspective? Do they rely on any particular method? What's the plan for the chapter? Okay, it says book, it's chapter. How do they organize the materials? I don't need every single person whose last name begins with the letter A through K to repetitively answer this. I need a couple of y'all to answer it until it's done. And let's talk about the next thing. What kind of sources does the author use? What kind of work is it? Is it an interpretive essay that reflects on historiographic or theoretical issues? Or is it based on original sources? Don't just count them. What kind of sources does the author use in the chapter? All right, the whole chapter. Look at those footnotes. Again, we don't need everybody to say something about this. We need a few of y'all to say something about it until it's covered. And then you get to the next part, which is going to be the longest part. You're going to break this particular chapter down into its components parts. All right, kind of what happens in the chapter? What are the examples that she uses? What are the points of reference that she really focuses on. Right? Finally, fourth section. How's it fit in? And the way this is designed, how does it fit in into course materials read up until this point? How does it fit in with the previous chapters? She's building an argument. How does it fit in with that stuff? And then, how does it fit in with the videos and the additional internet materials that I've given you, connecting it? And then finally, this last part, I'll just go up here for it. This is where your own thoughts come. What'd you think? What was particularly interesting about it? Or where did you think maybe she got it wrong? I think this would be a cool way to organize our discussion. So we're organizing both chapter discussions this way this week because it's going to get us in the mindset of thinking about how I want you to do your book analyses in the future. So that's what I want to try this week. I would like for the discussion of chapter 3 to be finished up by the end of the day on Tuesday. Is that how I have it set up? Let's look to the syllabus. Maybe I have that for the end of the day on Thursday. Okay. I'd like for the discussion on chapter 3 to be kicked off and in full blast by the end of the day on Tuesday. And then you guys can have until Thursday to finish it up. I would like for chapter 4 to be kicked off and on full blast by the end of the day Thursday. And you guys can have Saturday to finish it up. Start it as early as you want. Cool with me. I realize that some of y'all have full-time jobs and other things. So if my efforts to try to stagger the chapters, generate issues for you, just let me know. We can figure something out. Okay. Research bibliographies, chapter 3, chapter 4. Yeah, that feels pretty good. Take a look at the details for the formal essay. Just make sure that you understand kind of what we're moving towards. This is going to be the same kind of thing that your presentation is on, except it'll be focusing on the readings that you've been doing for it. So now we're doing my stuff, and you should be getting your stuff together and kind of thinking about how you want to approach it. There is a bazillion medieval history projects you could do. Begins year 500 roughly, ends year 1500 roughly. Any topic, any region, as long as you can get historical sources on them, it works. But I want some approval process on that. And what I did do for a few other classes is I started a discussion thread where people can kind of talk about, what are you thinking about doing? What are you thinking about doing? I might do that for this class. Anyway, that's enough for right now. I think that gives you guys ideas about what you're supposed to do next. If you have any questions, I try to be around for Zoom office hours quite frequently, so don't hesitate to use them. If my Zoom office hours don't work for you, send me an email and we can try to set up some sort of an appointment. If you are on campus but you're taking this class online, you can still come see me in the office. I'm not that easy to catch in the office. Wednesday mornings are probably the best time. I'm not always there on Wednesday morning, so don't travel to LC to see me unless we've already talked about it. I've got a weird schedule. But my point is this: I'm available. Let's chat. Let's make it fun. All right. Enjoy your historical studies.